Listen, Ed has a day off tomorrow, too. Oh, hello, Internet.
Hello, Internet.
Are we? Yes?
Okay,
Hi,
great.
Internet. Welcome.
Drink for technical
Yeah, drink
difficulties.
for all the technical difficulties. In spite of that, we are only 2 minutes late, and I have a notification, so we're doing good.
All right.
Hi, everybody. We are the Knights of the Drunk Watch, and we are here for a regularly scheduled Sunday book club, Lit, which means we're getting lit while talking about literature. I'm Audie.
I'm
Okay.
Kate.
I'm Andrew. We're the Knights of the Drunk Watch.
And now our talk begins. So, as announced last week in our promo, we are currently discussing The Eye of the World. Your reading assignment was the first 100 pages. Who got them done?
I did.
I did.
I didn't.
But that's okay, because Kate has a million things to
Kate
do
is
in
here
real
for
life.
the people who are behind
Yes.
on reading.
And I really wanted this to be an authentic book club feeling, so I will gladly be the person who fucked up, didn't read it, but is still here to drink and talk about it.
Exactly. And there's not a whole lot of like, which we don't have. Just the wine part.
not then.
Bye. No. So we are on Wheel of Time, Eye of the World, first 100 pages. Andrew, lead us, because you have notes.
Oh, okay. So let's just quickly run through what happened in these first 100 pages. So first we have the prologue.
Yeah.
So the prologue, which was the breaking of the world, right? Mm-hmm. With the mad dragon.
Yes. Lews Therin Telamon.
Lews Therin Telamon and Shaitan.
Yes, Shaitan.
The dark one.
That's the dark one. And then the other guy that actually showed up was the Breaker of Hope, or Betrayer of Hope.
Who's that?
No, so I
there was
think
another guy who showed up?
Shaitan is the first guy who was walking around, and then the other guy is the Breaker of Hope.
So
there weren't three guys.
No. So here's what happened. So we're already in trouble. So Lews Therin Telamon is the dragon that went mad, and then the person who showed up to meet him was not the dark one. He was the Betrayer of Hope.
That is the dark one.
No, he's like a right hand to the dark one.
He's like a minion of the dark one.
He's like number one minion of the
his
dark
lord,
one.
Or
but that's there's only 2 people in this prologue.
Yes,
but
they talk about the dark one residing in Shal Ghul, which is where he was. It's kind of like Mount Doom. He resides in Shal Ghul, but the Betrayer of Hope is a follower of Shaitan.
Okay.
Ellen Morin
yes.
Tedronai.
Yeah, Tedronai also know because the bad guy is called Shaitan. That's his name. So he's like the Sauron. He is just
he's the big bad.
Big bad. Anyways, I have to say this is my absolute. No, am I wrong?
No, I think I just like I didn't I didn't realize that the dark one was still out there controlling.
Yeah. I have to say, I first read this book when I was like in 6th grade. And I was obsessed with this first chapter. This first chapter, from a writer standpoint, the prologue is so beautifully written. I think it stuck with me as a writer for the rest of my life. The image of him not walking over the dead bodies of his family and not realizing that they're there was and their eyes, like eventually when he wakes up to it and his madness is cleared by an evil guy, so he can see all the horrible things that he's done, and the eyes accusing him. Like, look, I'm getting goosebumps just talking about it. I love the way this chapter is written.
And even in, like, it does make you feel as confused as they are, because you're like, is it his wife? Is it his wife, though? Like, they've mentioned her 4 times, but he keeps walking over her, so oh no.
Right. And I love the idea that, like, this is happening. He tried to save the world, and the world is broken because he tried to save it. There are still his companions, because he talks about the 100 that are still out there breaking the world. They are literally tearing this world asunder in their madness. I think this is the thing that always interests me so much about the Wheel of Time series, is this idea that, like, women can control the power, men go mad if they touch it. So I don't know. I love this image. Love this chapter.
Oh, hi, Annette.
Hi, Annette. Hey, Mom.
Okay, so that was the prologue.
Did you have any feelings about it?
Well, I just like you mentioned it's an eternal battle, been going on forever. Now, I didn't get the sense the breaking of the world was a bigger thing. I thought the breaking of the world was when he called down the lightning and the mountain erupted. And that
no, they are literally currently destroying the world. That because he talks about how his 100 companions are still out there breaking the world. So no, they are literally causing the apocalypse right now.
Okay. So then, chapter 1, An Empty Road, we are introduced to Randolph Orr.
This was very much a Stephen King kind of chapter for me.
Oh, really?
It was very like walking down the road desolately, and creepy figure shows up. So
Well, yeah, so we have Rand sees the Dark Rider on the road, and they finally arrive in Eamon's Field in the Two Rivers area. And then we're also quickly introduced to Matt Cawthon.
I love Matt.
Who is Rand's friend.
That was after.
Everybody should have everybody should have a friend like Matt. Matt is like, he's the like good time guy. He's a little trickster, a little prankster, always getting a little bit of trouble, but just like good trouble. He's not like a bad guy.
I like the way that, like, because most books don't do this, where it's like, all right, here are two characters that are probably going to be around for a while, and here's what is important for that. Like, most books now, like, want to, like, drop you into the scene, and you'll figure it out as you go. They're like, no, this is happening, and he's a widower, and he's his son, and he's nervous, and da-da-da. They just, like, lay it out for you.
And I love, I mean, as much as I was complaining last time about their, like, describing every leaf, I do enjoy him putting us into the world.
See that every weed was described.
They did talk a lot about grass. Like,
do they?
and a cow was on some of it, and geese were on another.
Yeah.
And then they talked about it later, because that's not where the pole is, but the grass is there.
He's really into nature. Okay.
All right. Okay, then chapter 2, we have Strangers, where we discover Matt has also seen the Black Rider.
Ooh.
Yes.
And there's an incident with a raven.
Yes, the raven.
Ravens are always bad news.
Bad.
And they've been
Ravens
flocking in like songbirds used to.
Yeah. Well, and ravens are symbolically always like spies for the bad guy.
Harbingers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, no, but then I think in fantasy they're specifically like
Yeah.
picking information and going up to the big bad and say, "Hey, I know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It's over here."
In this one, they're literally scouts. They're just like your eyes.
But that's where we're introduced to Moraine and
Yes.
Lan.
Moraine Aes Sedai and Lan.
Well, we don't know that yet.
Oh, sorry. Well, I mean, it's still
And it's
within
Aes
this.
Sedai.
Aes Sedai? Okay.
Yeah.
When I was little, I called it Aes Sedai.
There's a thing in the back
Yeah,
of the
you're right.
book.
There is a spelling, and there's in the back. There's actually something that'll give you a breakdown of every single little term,
Ooh.
so you can look it up. It's so helpful.
Every so often I find something lacking, but yeah, there's a little bit of a glossary
Yeah.
in the back.
But then the
So it's
last
Aes
page is
Sedai.
right there, so I don't want to get that close to the line. I'm like, that's the last.
Yeah.
Spoiler.
And because it's a very purposeful moment, and you know it's going to come into play later, is Moraine hands coins out to the
Yes.
3 young men who are there. Ewan is there. He's like the younger kid who's just like, I got a penny!
Mr. Ewan,
Yeah.
Kid Ewan, yeah.
And then chapter 3 is the peddler. The peddler comes to town for Beltane.
Oh, God. What is his name again?
Podden Fane.
Payden Fane, yeah. Or
Podden.
I think it's
Podden.
Payden. Okay.
See, I had an advantage. I had an advantage that I have read this book once before as well. I listened to it on audiobook.
Okay.
And so, and because I'm never sure if I'm remembering how they said it, I'm always looking in the back. And it's Podden.
Podden. Okay.
I mean, I think
I'm
it's
still
Podden.
stuck on the names I
Podden
used to
Fane.
call him when I was kid.
Yeah, when you made it up as a kid, there's that. He introduces us to the false dragons.
Yes.
And the sense of the dragon being reborn. And I think, no spoiler alert, Book 3 is Dragon Reborn, so that's coming up.
Yeah.
There's bound to be someone's going to be the dragon.
Someone is the Dragon Reborn. I like this like whole Antichrist concept. It's basically like whoever it's the dragon was originally Lews Therin Telamon, and he was supposed to be a great hero that saved the world. Instead, he broke the world because of the madness that took hold in his brain. And so now, if it's like as if Jesus had gone crazy and destroyed the world, and now there's a bunch of Antichrists popping up.
Right.
So,
But they're false.
But they're false. Yeah. They're false Jesuses, therefore Antichrist.
And it's at this point that we're introduced to Egwene Alvier.
Yes. I like her. I like all the women in these books because they are incredibly powerful for women written in fantasy in the late 80s, early 90s.
Well, women definitely have their own seat of power.
Yes.
The wisdom, Nynaeve, whatever.
That's what I call them.
I keep looking it up because I can never remember. But being the wisdom, and there's a women's council has its own things they're in charge of, and the town council, which is all men.
I love the woman that's like, oh, you think you're gonna do your own cooking and your own cleaning if you mouth off? Shut the hell up and don't meddle in women's business.
Yeah.
Like,
So, but
you're gonna like Nynaeve a lot. She is like takes no
well,
shit.
And I think it's important, and for my later topic of discussion, that with Egwene, we have a lot of talk of her leaving.
Yes.
She wants to go become a wisdom, and which means she
Yeah.
probably has to go, because especially Nynaeve is so young, she has to go somewhere else to become a wisdom.
And I love that. It's like, she's like, you know, everybody has set out this path for me. I'm supposed to marry Rand. I'm supposed to be, you know, the like keeper of the inn after my dad dies, blah, blah, blah. And instead she's like, nah, fuck tradition. I'm going to go and figure out my own way, which again, I think is a really forward-thinking concept for late 80s, early 90s. So.
Yeah. Oh, and I forgot to mention Perrin Ibarra was
Yes.
also who we're introduced to. He also saw Black Rider. And we
Yes,
discovered by the
I
end of
like
chapter.
Perrin. He's one of my favorite characters.
So then chapter 4 is the Gleeman, where we're introduced to Tom Maryland.
Yes.
And he goes through and he does a little pre-show for everybody. Does card ball juggling, but then when Moraine shows up, he's just like,
Bye.
bye.
Yeah, he seems to have problems with the Aes Sedai, as you call them.
And then it's at the end of that chapter that Tam shares with us that many of the young men have seen the Black Rider.
Yeah, around
no one else
Rand,
knows
Matt,
the Black Rider, but the young men
Perrin.
have. Not just Rand, Matt, and Perrin.
Yeah, but around their age.
Yeah, everyone around their age. So then chapter 5 is Winter Night, which is the Trolloc attack. Trollocs of legend attack the farm.
Yes, in a really like terrifying moment. I mean, it was the way that it's described and the way it's done. The isolation of Tam and Rand living by themselves in the middle of nowhere. It's heading into winter. It's cold.
It's
and
coming out of
it's
winter.
coming out of
I'm sorry, it's
winter.
coming out of
But
winter,
slowly.
but it's still
Slowly
cold.
Later
coming
than
out
it
of
should
winter.
be.
It's still cold, and then they're just sitting down to have some dinner, and all of a sudden they burst through.
The Trollocs burst through, and they're ugly.
Yes, they are
creatures.
scary. And they're not just like mindless whatever. They're not like, you know, goblins. They're like the Uruk-hai. They're not only strong, but they're hunters.
Yeah.
They can smell you a mile away. They kind of look like pigs.
Okay.
It's
Yeah, and then we're introduced to the Midral, or a Fade.
Yes.
Which is the assumption that that's what the Black Rider is.
yeah. That's like what's
It's like
it
a
called?
ring wraith.
Yeah, like a ring wraith.
I mentioned that
There's
earlier.
a lot of similarities.
That's one of my topics of discussion.
Okay.
And then chapter 6 is the Westwood, which is Rand's flight to Eamon's Field from the attack of the Trollocs on the farm. And Tam has been poisoned, question
Yeah.
mark is what I say.
Yeah,
'Cause,
something- the
he gets
blades-
cut. The blade has to have been poisoned because the fever is like right
Well,
on top of him.
Yeah.
Or
I mean,
magical
later,
or something.
Later they talk about how the blade was like made in a specific place.
Okay, so they came with an inherent power.
Most of their blades have like a poison
like we haven't
type
technically
thing.
gotten to that yet.
Oh, okay. I
so
thought that
it's-
was in 7.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, yeah, I know. I've also been trying very hard to make sure my notes don't get
Okay.
get ahead of the game too. Because even though I've also read The Great Hunt, but it was the abridged version on tape. I remember nothing of it. So once we get through this,
Right.
then I'll be a clean slate. So what else did I write? So in their flight, as Rand is dragging his dad behind him on the litter, Tam basically says, "You were a baby I took off of a mountain and brought home to my wife."
Yes. Yeah. In battle.
From some war.
Yeah, some war where both the men and women went to war, and but the woman was like, I guess, super pregnant, and she still went to war, and she died giving birth to him, and he was just sitting there in the
on the
snow.
side of a mountain.
Yeah, and he took so we don't know who Rand's mom is, who Rand's dad is.
And the thing is, but up until then, there's been a lot of talk about how the Two Rivers people look, and Rand doesn't look like that.
Yes, yeah,
He's fair.
Yep.
Blue eyes or pale eyes, and they're all dark.
He's taller.
Chapter 7, Out of the Woods. Eamon's Field, you've discovered, has also been attacked by the Trollocs.
Yes.
Well, and we did have, just at the end of the last chapter, a very Lord of the Rings moment with coming out of Eamon's Field with the Fate and the Trollocs.
Where they literally hid.
He literally froze in the bushes on the side of the road, and they passed, and then the Fade kind of came back to make sure that no one was hiding, and Rand was smart enough to stay hidden until the Fade finally gave up.
Now-
That was very much
Yes.
like the flight from the Shire.
Yeah. And we do get to learn a little bit about Rand and how he's a hunter. He's learned a lot from his dad about how to hunt and move through the woods. So he's got ranger powers.
He's got chaps.
Yeah, he's got all the ranger powers.
And so we get to Emmett's Field. We find that very specific houses were attacked. I would say homes of young men.
Yes.
And we find out that Moiraine is Aes Sedai.
Right.
Because the peddler always knew it, but didn't feel like he should expose her.
Right.
And then when Nynaeve said, I can't do anything for Tam, it was suggested that Rand go to Moiraine because she is Aes Sedai.
And I think a character we're kind of like pushing off to the side is Lan. I remember liking, again, I read this very long time ago and only this book, but I remember liking Lan a lot. He was like my crush. But I think this is the chapter where they talk about his like multicolored coat that like change. Not Tom Maryland.
No, that's Tom Maryland.
No, Tom Maryland has the multicolored coat, but Lan has a coat that like blends him
Yes.
into.
I think that's earlier. That's earlier when we first meet him.
Okay, yeah, he like blends into the environment. He's like a huge dude, big old sword. So I'm excited to see kind of where Lan goes and what he does. So.
And so that is the 7 chapters that we read.
Yes.
Okay.
We caught you up. You're all good.
Great.
Your mom is here.
Hi, Mom.
I know.
We have 5 people watching. So please, if you,
yeah.
we have now cleared the first 7 chapters. If there's anything you could say without spoiling,
Yeah.
even though you wouldn't really spoil me and Adi, we really don't want to spoil the video. So
Right. So if there's something that you'd like to talk about,
I'm
I know
not
this
near any
is
screen. So.
I know this is sort of like still the early beginning. We're getting a lot of introductions and things like that. You said you had a few notes that you wanted to
Okay,
discuss.
so anyway, so the one big thing that that I've always thought about, really, since someone showed it to me in Harry Potter, that one of the rising themes in the story is that we have most epic fantasy will have 3 or 4 heroes that are the central to the story, and I feel like we've been introduced to our 4 heroes.
Yes.
To Rand, Mat, Perrin, and Egwene.
Yes.
So those are our 4, and Egwene, she could look like the girlfriend that Rand leaves behind, and will he ever come back to her?
But she doesn't seem like that at all.
But because of all that talk about, I want to go out, and I want to see the world, and I want to go to another town and become a wisdom, I think that puts her on the path.
Yeah.
Because I don't think it's a spoiler that the whole story ain't going to happen in Eamon's Field. People have got to leave. These tales are always
This
about
is the
journey.
Shire, and we're about to exit
Yeah.
the Shire towards Mount Doom.
And so,
Or at least towards Rivendell.
So I was thinking about the kind of the other big epic fantasies that I think most of us or all of us are familiar with that have that 4. And the one that kind of brought that whole concept together for me was Harry Potter. Because if I don't know if you ever thought about it this way, but Harry Potter has 4.
Yes.
Has Harry, Hermione, and Ron, which everyone automatically thinks about, but it was my best friend, Victoria. Hi, Victoria. We'll never see this. Who turned me on to the idea that if Neville is really the 4th.
Yeah, he
Yeah.
is.
Yeah, well, I mean, but Neville's, once you get to the end, you see where he's the 4th, but she noticed it earlier on. When Neville was always just like, you can't go, but you're good to tell us, and then the 3 of them ran off. But because it also mirrored the 3 of them, the 4 people from earlier, Moony, Wormtail, Padfoot, and Prongs.
Yes.
Because my friend Victoria was always really scared that Neville would go bad.
Oh, because he'd be the Wormtail.
Because Wormtail went bad. And then, of course, what she did was like, Wormtail went bad, but Neville became the ultimate hero.
I'm wondering if
she flipped the tail on that. So, and then, but let me just finish my list. So that's kind of brought me the whole concept of, this concept exists in fantasy. Because you have those 4, and then in Harry Potter you had the one generation of 4 where one went bad. So what's going to happen to Neville? And then Neville becomes the ultimate hero at the end. Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, Lord of the Rings. And then I would argue, since we just finished Game of Thrones, which Martin is the king of really taking all of that and flipping it on his head, that you don't know this until the end of the series. I'm assuming that even though you don't get there the same way, the outcome is still basically the same, that Jon, Sansa, Arya, and Bran are
you got
the
your 4 stars.
core heroes. And so we have 3 young men who are marked by a writer, 1 young woman who wants to see the world.
Yep.
Those are our 4 heroes. And then the question is like...
And then you got your Gandalf and Moraine. Or your Dumbledore.
A Gandalf or a Dumbledore or Moraine, supposedly. And Lan is, a protector of her. I mean, I don't know if I want to go ahead, because I know who a lot of that band is. Tom Maryland becomes part of their band.
And
Nynaeve. And Nynaeve become part of that band. But, so the question is, the thing to watch for is like, we got 4 people to watch. Will one be a betrayer?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't want to argue Harry Potter right now.
We don't know that, but
Right. I don't want to argue Harry Potter right now, but I would pose you the idea that instead of Neville, Draco was the 4th.
I could see that as a possible argument, but I think in terms of a band of 4, in terms of the Frodo, Sam, Merry, and Pippin, Draco wouldn't fit in that.
Yeah,
band.
I guess.
He could be a 4th.
He'd be like the Boromir.
He could be a hero.
Yeah.
He could be an anti-hero or whatever. But, it's always a band of 4, Mooney, Padfoot, Prongs, and Wartail, where Draco was never part of the 4.
That's true. Anyways, we're not here to talk about Harry Potter.
Anyway,
Sorry.
So, anything else about this? Like, we've been introduced, like, these are our 4 heroes. These are the people we expect to focus on.
Yes.
With, I'm assuming, I don't know, but I'm assuming Rand is our Frodo.
Yeah, Rand is our
No
Frodo.
matter how he's our Harry Potter. No matter how the rest of them fall out, Rand is our Frodo.
Now, I will tell you this: there is a alternate version of the book, this one, that actually adds an extra chapter in between the prologue and the first chapter.
What?
It's called Ravens. You can look it up.
The chapter
is called Ravens, and it's very minor. It's definitely more setup, but it's,
where did this come from? When was this written?
Honestly, I'm not sure.
Tell
I've
me
only ever.
Tell me more. Extra.
I don't know the version of the book. I just know that I saw it in
on the internet.
Yes, I saw it as part of the chapter list.
Everything on the internet is true.
I saw it as part of the chapter list. I think it's a later version of the book was redone a little bit.
Yeah, I mean because even the
edition.
versions that I have that I just got. We have all 14 books on the back.
Yeah.
So this is a publication.
See,
after
mine I think might be one of the
after it was finished.
See, I think mine is actually one of the first editions. I still have this from when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And this came out in the late, early 90s.
How much did it cost?
So, it doesn't even
$12.99.
Oh no, it says at the bottom of down here.
No, it doesn't. Oh, $6.99.
So yeah.
This is the OG.
Inflation.
This is
only
I'm looking out here like there's people. You're right here.
It's $12.99.
That's my White Russian speaking.
Yeah, she's right. It's only $9.99. It's $12.99 in Canada.
Oh, that's Canada.
Come on.
Yeah.
But we love Canada because their prime minister's so pretty.
Yes.
So pretty.
Okay.
$9.99.
I don't think that's political. I don't know if that's but he is
no,
molesting
he's
him.
molesting him.
Okay. Anyways,
We've lost
I think this is a really good start first story where obviously it's going to be a lot more like Game of Thrones than it is Harry Potter because it's going to create entire worlds. We're going to have a million characters that come in and interact with these characters. What I'm expecting to see in lieu of your ideology about the 4 main heroes is I expect them to be split up.
Oh yes, definitely.
They're gonna go their own directions and then come back together.
I mean, look how thick the book
18 books later. And this is just the first one. We will be following these characters.
This is 1,000 pages and
for 14 books.
But forget about that. Just in this one book,
right?
They're gonna, you don't have 1,000 pages. They got to split up and come back together.
Anything else? Any other thoughts?
So then, I guess real quick, and maybe this is something we can kind of talk about as we go, is Tolkien's influence over epic fantasy.
Yes,
because if I bring it up, I do not mean it as a criticism. I was also a big fan, and I really do kind of want to go back and reread those books and read more of it. Big fan of Terry Brooks.
Yeah.
And the Shannara series, when it came out in the 80s...
I have a bunch of them. I haven't read them, but I haven't.
They're really good. The Shannara series was the first series where I had to buy the hardback to finish it because I didn't realize it was a quadrilogy. I thought it was a trilogy. And I waited for all those paperbacks. And then I was like, it's not over. And then the hardback came out for the 4th book, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm buying the hardback.
That's why all my Harry Potter books are hardbacks.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, yeah, but no, this was, before even the Harry Potter craze. It was just like, I got started on the paperbacks. I was waiting every year for the new paperback to come out. And then when that Elf Queen of Shannara wasn't the end, and I'm reading it going, how is this going to bring it all together? And then I realized, oh, there's a 4th book, hardback. Anyway, he got a lot of criticism by mimicking Tolkien's style. Because his is different because it's generational, but it's still kind of the epic fantasy. You got a group going out, they get separated, they get put back together, whatever, and he got a lot of criticism for that. But then I started reading an article that I meant to finish before tonight's talk, so I'm sorry. I'll drink for being unprepared.
Yeah, Kate.
So we're in tears. Andrew has notes. I have read it, and Kate has read part of it. So still the most prepared person at the
there
table.
was an article about Jordan being, the article was discussing when Game of Thrones came out. There was a lot of talk about Martin being the American Tolkien, and this article was talking about really it was Jordan. And I would agree with that because Martin, yes, it was epic fantasy. There wasn't really a group quest, though. And also, Martin is a lot about, taking those very traditional tropes and twisting them.
Well, and just finding the realism with it.
For him, you have a main character. You're following him. Eddard Stark should have been...
Spoiler alert. Goodbye.
Eddard Stark should have been our Frodo.
Our Rand.
Our Frodo. And he's dead at the end of the book.
Yeah.
So, Martin was really about taking those tropes and twisting them, so you really don't know what you're getting until you've read it all, or seen it all. In our case, where Jordan, I'm assuming,
so far
is a little more conformed, and so if you're going to put Brooks aside because he was criticized for being too much like Tolkien, then Jordan would be the American Tolkien.
Well, and at the same time, you have to think about the timeline in which all of this was being written. All of these epic, the 80s and the 90s were a great time for book epic fantasies.
I read a lot. Piers Anthony. I read Piers Anthony until I couldn't read him anymore.
So, at a time where, Stephen King was basically ruling the shelves.
The horror genre, yeah.
Yeah, you had all of this epic fantasy coming out because even though it launched in, I think
1991, I think.
This is 1991. When was the first Game of Thrones? 96, 97?
Later. A little bit later,
But they were all being written at the same time. They were all being developed and written around the same time.
George
and
R. Martin. Yes.
Yeah, he'd been writing that shit for 20 years.
Okay, quick pause. Hold that thought. Keep talking, because I know it's a little bit of a delay. There are 5 people watching right now. If anyone has any comment that isn't a spoiler or a question, or ask.
No, I mean you can ask a question.
Ask.
Yeah, if there's anything you guys want to talk, if you don't feel comfortable right now, you can also add us on Twitter.
But we do have 5 watching, so I don't want to ignore the people because we are doing this live because we want to interact with you.
And while you're here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and the notifications bell.
The little bell. That little bell.
We will be here every 2 weeks discussing Eye of the World.
Yeah, 2 weeks
until we're done.
All right.
What?
Okay,
we're done?
So we need to wrap it up.
That's it. That's all I had. This was all of the epic fantasy was being written around the same time. I think we can expect amazing things out of this series. I cannot wait. I can't wait to see the video, the show. Join our Wheel of Time fan group on Facebook. That's going to happen soon. Sure. We also have a website that we're going to put in the links once Zach gets it together.
Nicedrunk.me.
Nicedrunk.me.
Is that our lit website?
It'll all be there.
All I know is that these
These
white Russians go right to my
There you go. No, but we do have a website. We're going to be putting up a blog as we're reading it and just kind of talking a little bit about it.
So real quick, and we'll add this, I guess. I don't know. Can you add stuff to this after we finish? I don't know. The reading assignment.
The description at the bottom.
The reading assignment, chapters 8 to 14.
Okay, is that the next 100 pages?
Yeah.
Okay.
It'll take us to 206.
Okay.
So chapter 8 to 14.
Yes.
So
don't read Strangers and Friends.
So if you're seeing this now, or if you're seeing this in a couple of days, and you're thinking, oh my God, they love this book too, you want to be. We're reading up to chapter 14.
Yes.
Kate. In 2 weeks.
Shit. Honestly, it's 200 pages in 2 weeks. We're good. All right, Zach is telling us we're done, and I have pizza to make. So,
I'm Andrew.
we don't have to do that again.
You know,
I'm
they
Audie.
came in late.
I'm Kate.
And we're the Nuts to Drunk Watch.
And
now our talk is ended.
ended.
Join us later for our discussion of The Boys and Dark Crystal first episode.
Yeah, they could have come in after we introduced ourselves and not know who we are.
Later tonight, live on YouTube, we're going to be doing our
probably out by
reaction to
now.
the first episode of Dark Crystal Age of Resistance.
Eye of the world.
Thank you.